Thank you. I call to order the March 27th, 2018 Town Council Committee of the Whole meeting. All councilors are present. Calendar and communications. Councilor Morosik.
Last week I went to the seat workshop meeting, and I found that to be interesting because of the money that's being taken from the seat organization. And they're going to lose 15% of their budget.
Thank you for attending that.
I attended Town Police Department's tour on March 15th. Also, I attended the youth discussion that was held at the Municipal building, put on by a young gentleman. Very well, he presented very well that evening. March 17th, I participated and was able to start the run for the 5K that Saturday. And thank you for this shirt. So I was very happy that I was able to participate. I also attended a March 22nd GAS had put on an event along with Community Speaks Out and City of Groton Police Department Narcan training. I believe they also did it yesterday at the Senior Center, so GAS was out there trying to make sure that our citizens are safe. March 25th, I participated in the Mystic Irish Parade, and that's all. Thank you.
I attended a Trails Committee meeting where they are working on rebuilding a bridge behind Cutler. Went to Board of Ed, Water Pollution Committee. I went on the police tour. I also went on a police ride-along where I'd like to thank Chief Pizarro and Sergeant McCarthy. So I got to see the town in a different perspective. I went to the school safety meeting up at Fitch where they had the police, school administration, students, and parents were there to discuss what they thought might be a solution, I guess, for what's going on. I went to a budget education meeting last night put on by Betsy, and I received numerous emails regarding the Merritt Boulder Heights land swap.
Councilor Heath.
I would like to yield my time to Representative Town Member Roseanne Katowski.
If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Roseanne Katowski, 24 Ann Avenue, Mystic, Connecticut, and thank you, Councilor Heath. Tonight, I would like to speak against the proposed $78,307,747 2019 Board of Ed budget. This year, for the Board of Ed budget, I am advocating for the minimum budget requirement of $76,468,238. After an 8.7% tax increase for 2018, the taxpayers cannot afford any more tax increase. Therefore, it is essential that the approved number for the Board of Ed for 2019 is the minimum budget requirement just stated. Here are some important reasons why. The superintendent has stated recently at several meetings that the Board of Ed saved $1.3 million from closing Pleasant Valley. Therefore, the 2018 numbers should have been $1.3 million less. Including $1.3 million in the Board of Ed proposed decrease is not a savings. The Board of Ed spent an additional $1.3 million in 2018 due to the closing of Pleasant Valley, and there was zero savings to the taxpayers. Why is this important? Because last year the town was under normal minimum budget requirement rules, which allow reductions to the minimum budget requirement under certain conditions, such as declining enrollment, the closing of a school, and energy efficiencies, all applied to Groton. The Board of Ed budget could have been reduced for 2018 while following the rules, which would have provided the taxpayers with much needed tax relief. The 2018 8.7% tax increase did not have to happen. This year, due to the Alliance designation, there can be no minimum budget requirement reduction. Any amount that is approved above the minimum budget requirement cannot be reduced for the 5 years of the Alliance District. Recently, the Town Council was told that there will be savings in 2020 when the new middle school is open. That cannot happen. Due to the Alliance designation, the minimum budget requirement cannot decrease for 5 years. Per pupil spending. The Town of Groton spends $15,813 per year per student, and the median household income in Groton is $62,137. When comparing Groton with other Connecticut towns with similar median household incomes, we are right in the middle. Do we spend enough per student? Yes, when compared to other towns with similar median household incomes, which is another reason to support the minimum budget requirement for this year. There must be a balance between what is preferred, what is realistic, and what the taxpayers can afford. Class size. Another area to consider for reductions and cost efficiencies in the Board of Ed budget are class sizes at Fitch High School. After eliminating resource, intervention, phys ed, health, and special ed and averaging the classes, the average class size is 12.59. That is too low by any standard, and cost-saving measures must be taken. Again, there must be a balance that includes respect for the taxpayers. Benefits. One last area of potential savings is a non-union management agreement, which covers all non-union town employees as well as non-union Board of Ed employees except for the superintendent. This document needs to be updated. As a start, eliminate all post-employment retirement benefits for new non-union employees. These are benefits unheard of by the taxpayers who are paying for them. Moving forward, it is time to eliminate post-employment retirement benefits for all new employees. Tiered benefits are standard practice in most municipalities, the state, and businesses with unions. Last, the Board of Ed has proposed a 2.4% increase for 2019, which is a staggering $1,849,508 for a declining student population of 4,310, which includes 161 preschoolers. The Alliance District designation has proven that throwing money at the Groton Public Schools has no positive measurable outcome. One final point. Please remember that reducing the proposed increase to the Board of Ed budget is not cutting the budget. Due to the reasons I have outlined here, as well as the fact that Groton taxpayers will soon see tax increases due to the $184,500,000 school project, the Town Council should support and approve the minimum budget requirement of $76,468,239 for the Board of Ed 2019 budget. Once again, there must be a balance between what is preferred, what is realistic, and what the taxpayers can afford. Respectfully submitted, Roseanne Katowski, and thank you again, Councilor Heed.
Thank you, Representative Katowski. Do you have a copy of that you could leave, please? Thank you very much. Councilor Aubrey?
What?
Communications.
Oh, I got so caught up with what she was saying.
It was engrossed.
As Rachel mentioned, we went to the EDC meeting, and they are really working hard. Also, we went on a tour of the police station. I had wished I had bread to drop on the floor so I could find my way back. That's the most confusing place I've been in. But they're doing some wonderful things, and it was a very enlightening evening. Thank you.
Is this Representative Katowski's packet?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Councilor Atwater.
I also attended the tour of the police station, and I sat on the board for the Southeastern Connecticut Recycling Program, consortium of cities and towns.
I also attended the police station tour, although I wasn't able to do the walking portion. And I had a meeting last week with the Personnel Committee, and I think there'll be a report on that. And also, I did receive one email from somebody in Noantic about the landfill changes, and she was very concerned about the fact that they're not able to bring leaves any further to the landfill. They're not able to pick up mulch. And I think that we were told that one thing that does happen is that the big contractors come in and they take all the mulch, so there's very little left for the citizens to partake on that. And so I think they are trying to work a solution for that.
Councilor Perry?
I'd like to report that on March 11th at 12:15 p.m., I saw a pedestrian on Thomas Road. And on March 22nd night at twilight, at dusk, I saw a bicyclist on Thomas Road. Other than that, I have met with a number of citizens of our town, including Roseanne, and I've heard her well-thought-out presentation personally at that, and I think we should give her some credence. I've also met with several of the burghers of this community who have spoken with me about their concerns for the Merritt Boulder swap. It appears that the conservationists would be receptive of switching the swap from Merritt Boulder to Merritt King's property surrounding the Kolnaski School. I visited the property. It seems like an ideal property for a conservation reserve. So it's something we'll be considering during the day, but I've received emails and I've met with people concerning this, and I share their feelings.
Thank you. Yes,
I did
Councilor.
neglect to say that I did go to the presentation about the family farm last week at the library, which was very well organized and very well presented. And they want to get citizen input on what they would like to see to replace that property or be on that property. And it was an excellent presentation, and we were very fortunate to have them all these years with the chickens and the sheep and the vegetables. We're going to miss that.
Thank you. I also attended the youth-led discussion on school violence at the City Municipal building that Councilor Parker and Councilor Heed attended. I've been getting many emails about the building project, as well as net neutrality. We're getting a lot of people contacting us, asking us as a municipality to speak out in favor of net neutrality. We have all received an invitation, Town Council, from Parks and Rec to participate in the 4th of July parade. That's a long way away, but they're asking us to do that. There's a walk to end homelessness that will be held in New London and to benefit the homeless shelter that we help support in New London, so I'm hoping maybe we can get a team together for that. I attended the Irish Parade, which one of the organizers of the Irish Parade is former RTM moderator Kevin Power. So it was nice to see him. It was a very nice turnout for the community. And I missed out on the police station and the Burroughs Farm thing because I was attending my daughter's dissertation defense. So proud Mamo did that instead of this. Approval of minutes. We have several sets of minutes to approve. And where did we leave off? Councilor Schmidt, please.
What is this?
Approval of minutes. I can do it. 2018-0065, resolution accepting committee of the whole minutes. Resolved that the minutes of the Town Council Committee of the Whole meetings of February 20th, 2018, February 27th, 2018, and March 6th, 2018 are hereby accepted and approved. I so move. Second. I do have one item on the March 6th minutes, please. If you could go to page 1 of the March 6th minutes. And it dealt with the Merritt property conversion and the Boulder Heights conservation easement. And it is recorded here that that Councilor Heed and seconded by Perry moved that the matter be tabled. We did not move that the matter be tabled. We moved that it be postponed to a time definite, and that would be this evening. And I think that's an important detail that we have to note. And that was the same thing for 2017-0298. We did not table that. We moved to postpone to time definite, which was tonight. Does anyone else have anything in the minutes that they need to address? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on approval of the minutes, 2018-0065. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? So moved unanimously. All right, unfinished business. I think we're good. Okay, so we're moving down to new business, and tonight with us we have the fire chief and gentleman from the fire department, and we've been asked to move that up to the first item so they could get, they're on call, so they have to get back to their job. So we're going to consider 2018-0050, the lease of Town Hall Annex office space to Poquonnock Ridge Fire District. So if you'd like to come up, please. So that was in your packet, almost at the very end. is where you'll find the lease for the Poquonnock Ridge Fire District. Good evening, Chief. Thank you for coming out.
Joe Winsky, Fire Chief of Poquonnock Ridge.
Cal Tyler, Fire Marshal.
Would you like to introduce us to the issue, Mr. Burt, please?
Sure. This has been in the works for quite some time. The idea being that we would relocate the fire marshal to a vacant spot downstairs in this building. The idea being, as people submit plans, they have to be reviewed by the fire department. So the idea is he could actually meet with people on site, cutting down the time to get those plans reviewed. So we're looking at an approximate 5-year lease here to place them in that vacant spot.
Thank you. Do any of the councilors have questions for the fire marshal, the chief, or for Mr. Burt regarding this lease? That was easy. All right. So then we will, let's see, go back here. We recommend that this be placed on the council agenda.
Correct.
All those in favor, yes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much, Chief and Fire Marshal.
Thanks for making it easy.
Thank you.
All right, so now we are back up to the top of the agenda, which is the Merritt property conversion. Or did we want to do the actuary first, Mr. Manager?
I'd say, if it's okay, I know he traveled, so it might be nice to get the actuary done if you don't mind.
Is that acceptable to everybody? So we will go to 2017-0211, the presentation by the town's actuary, and I think we have some people here that are interested in hearing that as well. So 2017-0211, presentation by actuary. And I don't know the gentleman's name, so if you would introduce yourself when you come up, please. Mr. Burt, what is the firm that we use for actuary?
Hooker and Holcomb.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have an extra set for the clerk? Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Woollacott.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If you'd like to have a seat at the table, if it's more comfortable, you're welcome to. Whatever works for you best. We'll get you on camera no matter what. You like the podium? Okay.
Actually, I wouldn't mind walking around.
Okay. I think it was.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Bill Woollacott. I'm with Hooker and Holcomb. I'm a consulting actuary. I'm also one of the owners of the firm. You may have been used to dealing with Tim Ryer in the past, but unfortunately he's left the firm. So now I'm going to help you out and do what I can. And I've been talking to Bob Zanino quite a bit, and he's told me that you're interested in a couple things. So I thought I brought some background, some questions you may have that could answer, but I want to go to page 4, right to start off. Just to make a couple comments about the funded status of the plan. Looking at the executive summary, similar amount of people from the prior year, 683 versus 671. Similar average pay than the prior year. Accrued liability is expected to go up as long as the plan is still active, so that did go up an expected amount. One of the good things that happened this year was a good return on the market value of assets. So one of the things you want to take out of this is taking a look. Last year, the market value was $106,983,000, and the actuarial value was $113,334,000. So that's a difference of $6.5 million or so. So that means some past asset losses still had to be smoothed in. So with the good year that the market had this last year, The difference is only $3 million, so that's a positive step. When there's a lot of asset losses, experience losses to be smoothed in, the contribution tends to jump a little bit, so that's a good sign for future contributions. Plan funded percentage about the same as last year. It's actually better than it was last year if you look at the market value of assets, but on the actuarial basis, that's how we do it, so about the same as last year. In comparison to your peers across the state, the average funded percentage about 72%. You're about 86%, so that's good. Your interest rate, however, is a little bit higher than the average across the state, which is now 7%. You're at 7.5%, so you may want to continue moving the interest rate down a little bit. So when you do that, your funded percentage will drop, unfortunately. So just a couple comments. So the recommended contribution went up from $3.25 million to $3.397 million. Kind of an ordinary occurrence right there. So that's just the executive overview. And I didn't think you wanted to spend much time going through the report from what I heard. Wanted to go to alternative plans. But if anybody has any questions about these numbers, you can certainly ask now or at the end.
How do you come up with the recommended number? The recommended, actuarial determined? $3,397,300.
That's actually on page 8. So the recommended contribution has basically two parts. You have can everybody see the gross normal cost of $2,819,824? Everybody see that number? Okay, call that in English the future service cost. So that's basically the cost for people that are working today, right now. Now that cost gets offset by employee contributions. So they're paying for a part of their benefit. And then you end up with the town's portion, which is $1,544,000. Now the other part of the cost, so that's the future service cost. The other part of the cost is the past service cost. Remember I said we were 86% funded? Mm-hmm. Our goal is to get to 100% funded. So we want to pay off that past service liability. And the payment on that past service liability is $1,676,000. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how many years that's amortized over, but the goal is to get to 100% funded. So that's what that's doing. So your two parts of the pension cost, the future service cost, and the past service cost, add up to $3,220,000, and then we add a little interest because we do this valuation as of July 1, 2017, but we don't get the data until after that date. You're already well into this fiscal year, so we always project it to a future fiscal year for planning. So we add a little interest to get it to a future fiscal year. So does that help out?
Yes, sir.
When you, at the beginning, when you were talking about the funded ratio, we were at 86%. You said that the average of our peers was 72%.
Yeah.
What do you consider our peers? Like, what do you use as a basis for a comparison?
All the towns have their own pension. All the towns and cities across Connecticut that have their own plan. So we did a survey of all those towns. We got another one coming once everybody's published their CAFRA, if you will. So last year it was 7%. The year before it was 7.12%. So the interest rates have been coming down, what people are using for their expected rate of return.
And you said we're using 7.5 as our
7.5.
expected rate of return?
So a little bit high in comparison to your peers. And if you were using a lower interest rate, you'd have a lower funded percentage.
How long would it take to get to 100% funded? If we're
Well, that's,
doing...
I'm going to have to, unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. It's right in the report. And of course, I didn't bring the report with me. I think it's sort of like Murphy's Law. Whenever somebody asks me, whenever I need the report, I don't have it. So, but we can get that question answered. But it is like paying off a house mortgage where you pay it off over a certain amount of years.
Okay. Yeah, if you could send that would be great. Thank you.
Yep.
Does anyone else have any questions at this point?
It'd be good to know the difference between if you assume 6.5 or 7.5% rate of return.
Between what?
If you can tell us how long to pay off if you assume a 7.5% rate of return versus a 6.5.
Those numbers are actually in the GASB report, GASB being the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, that we prepare for the town, and it's part of the town's CAFRA. So there's a chart in there that shows the funded percentage at different interest rates, plus 1%, minus 1%. So that number is published in the town's comprehensive annual financial report. So, but we can certainly take a look at that.
Thank you. Any other questions at this point?
Employees can be in either the defined benefit or the defined contribution plan, or can they be in both?
They could be in both.
Are there any of our employees that are in both?
Well, I think your 457 plan is pretty much voluntary contributions.
Yes.
Yeah. So they could put their own money into that if they wanted to.
So it could be additional.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. But the town matches, or they put in 4%.
Not if you're in the, not if you're in the retirement plan.
Oh yeah, not if you're in a retirement plan, you don't get a match.
Right. And that would be the defined benefit plan?
Right.
Right. Because it's two plans.
Do you want to continue with your presentation?
Sure, sure. I'm going to skip to page 10. So there's two primary type of pension plans. One we call a defined benefit plan, which is what we're talking about right here, where when you retire, you're going to get a monthly annuity for the rest of your life. And the other one, a defined contribution plan, where you make deposits and those deposits earn money, and then whatever you get at retirement, whatever your savings grow to, that's what you get. So,
Bless you.
defined benefit plans are pretty common amongst towns and cities, especially amongst the police and fire groups. And defined contribution plans, right now, just have the supplemental plan, if you were the 457 plan, whereby if you're in the defined benefit plan, then you don't get a match, but otherwise you just make your own deposits. There's also plans called hybrid plans, where there's some of each. The town of West Hartford, for instance, that's one town that I work on. They basically cut their defined benefit multiplier in half and offered a defined contribution plan as well. So to try to reduce some of the defined benefit plan risk. So they did that. I kind of want to go to page 11. And the type of plan that, and I think Tim has brought up the hybrid type of plans before, but I'll bring up a different one called the cash balance plan. They've been around since the 80s. The town of Wallingford has just adopted one for a couple of their union groups, and it fits some of their goals. So this cash balance plan is still a defined benefit plan, but it looks like a defined contribution plan. So, and I want to spend a little bit of time here. So with this cash balance plan, each year the participant gets a pay credit, and they may want to contribute themselves, and it earns some interest. The big difference between that and the defined benefit plan is that the way I designed the one for Wallingford was that the interest they earned was equal to whatever the fund earned. So it takes away the investment risk pre-retirement. So whatever the fund earns, that's what the participants get. The participants were a little uncomfortable with the idea of getting a negative return in some years, and in some years you could get a 20% return. So what we did is we did a little bit of a study and determined, all right, if you always want to get at least 0%, then you could never get more than 11%. So we worked out a factor to make that work, to alleviate some of the union concerns. But you know, that plan design is very nice. The cost is very predictable. If it also allows you to fund for a disability benefit. That's something you can't have with a defined contribution plan. So if somebody asks you what's the cost of a defined contribution plan, and you say, oh, well, the town's going to give you 4%, well, it's going to cost more than that, because then you're going to have to buy a disability benefit plan too. So the disability benefit plan right now is in the defined benefit plan, and it can also be in the cash balance plan. So we found that the cash balance was, because you make the contributions at the end of the year, that's the way you credit the pay credits, you're able to absorb the cost of the disability plan. And so if somebody asked me to cost out a cash balance plan, for Wallingford, it actually worked out that the participants were putting in 7%, and the town was putting in 5%. The long-term cost of the town, 5%. And that included the cost of having a disability benefit as well. So a very efficient vehicle. Definitely something that you'd want to consider. Now, the cash balance plan, sometimes people are nervous when they come to retirement. They don't want to do the investing themselves. So in that situation, they can convert their cash to an annuity. And what we did with the Wallingford plan was to say the conversion's based upon the current actuarial assumptions that are last published. So whatever you could have bought as an annuity from a DB plan, you would get here. So that's one of the things that we did there. A lot of people like the portability of the benefit. They can take their cash and put it into an IRA. If they move to another job, they can bring it with them. So it's a nice, it's a newer type design plan. A lot of states seem to use them, but not too many towns and cities. If you flip to page 12. So I've used DB, that's defined benefit, that's what you have right now. So, how is a cash balance plan like the defined benefit plan? Well, it has a pool of assets just like you have now. You don't have to set up a new plan that can be part of the current plan. You have a professional investment advisor that invests the assets for you. Studies show that when that happens, they earn 1% higher on average than what the participants earn themselves. Participants tend to be a little more conservative. So that could be to the benefit of your participants as well. It still does require an actuary to calculate what your annual cost is, like I do now. So it's still a defined benefit plan. There is some post-retirement risk. If somebody does elect an annuity, then you still have to do the investing for that person and pay out the monthly benefits. So that there is still some post-retirement risk, and you have that with a defined benefit plan right now. Anybody that's getting monthly annuity payments, not only do you have the interest rate risk, you have the longevity risk as to how long they're going to live. For the people who take the lump sum, the money's gone. No more risk for the town. Studies show that more people take lump sums than annuities, but we don't know if that pattern's going to change or not. I mentioned before you can have a disability benefit inside the cash balance plan. You can't have that in the defined contribution plan. Just nothing you can do there to have a disability benefit there. You'd have to self-insure it yourself at an extra cost or buy some insurance for it. Let's see. Let's go on to page 13. So this cash balance plan is kind of like a defined contribution plan in the fact that everybody sees their benefits as cash. People don't always understand the annuity benefits, but if you show them their benefit in cash every year, they understand what they have. So the employer would contribute a percentage of pay to the employee's account each year, and the employee can contribute as well. You could have everybody getting 5% of pay, I have some plans cash balance plans that they vary the contribution based upon like a point system, age plus service. The more points you have, the higher percentage you have. Usually what I see with union negotiations, though, is everybody gets the same percentage. Interest credit every year. People get a statement once a year showing what their cash balance is. And similar to a defined contribution plan, there is no pre-retirement interest risk because you're going to credit whatever the fund earns as your interest rate. So that's a different type of plan. I know, the kind of mathematics are behind it are on page 14. So we just did a sample 2 years for somebody. And I think most people would envision this for new hires. Makes the cost as a percentage of pay very predictable. It's generally, as I said before, if you want to give a 5% of pay contribution credit, that's what it's going to cost the town, 5% of pay. I don't have to do a lot of pricing to tell you what it's going to cost.
So page 14 is an example of a cash balance plan.
It is.
Thank you.
Yep. So you could see when you start out at year one with a new person, they have no cash balance. In this particular example, it was only a 4% of pay contribution. Could be quite a bit more. It could be 4% that the town's putting in, 4% that the employee's putting in. So there's lots of options there. And then the next year that starts earning interest. So in this particular instance, we'll assume that the fund returned 4% the next year. They get some interest, they get a new pay credit, they get a balance at the end of the year. And I'd have to look, there's one other thing I want to take a look at. When you try to decide how much you want to spend on a cash balance plan or a defined contribution plan, you want to understand what you're spending now. So I think that's that page 8 is a useful page. So right now, I like to look at the future service cost because remember, when somebody comes in as a new employee, they have no past service liability. It's all future service costs. So just look at the top part. So the total gross normal cost is 11.3%, getting offset by 5% of employee contributions. And so you take the 11% minus the 5%. So in rough terms, the current plan, the futures cost is about 6% of pay. So if you said, let's design a cash balance plan that costs 6% of pay, you could have that and spend about what you're doing now. So that gives you a general idea. Some of your groups have better formulas than others, so that it might vary per group, but this is overall. Questions?
Does the council have any questions? You've given us a lot to read, so I'm sure we're going to take a look at this, and then we'll probably have questions after you've had a chance to
So if the
digest.
goal is to reduce some risk,
Councilor Atwater.
I'm just curious, let's say in the last 10 years, what your rate of return has been. I mean, if we're using 7.5, have we been hitting that in the investment every year?
Let me see if I include that number in these slides. It's in the regular report.
Is Director Landry here? I thought I saw her earlier.
It was for the part, but she may have left.
Okay.
So that is actually an exhibit in the regular report. So it shows over 10 years history of how you've been doing as far as your return.
Okay.
But that's not something I know off the top of my head. We know last year, I think you did quite well. I think, was it like 14% you did last year?
Manager Bird?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're going to cover the retiree COLAs and how that would work.
Oh, yeah, yep. Sure.
And we had, Tim Ryer had run some numbers probably about 4 months ago for what it would cost for a 2% COLA for the retirees. So.
Now, that would just be for the existing retirees?
Yes.
Okay, so would it be 2% each year or just a one-time?
One-time thing.
One-time
right.
increase?
Mm-hmm. And it came out to be, by the way, at the time, it's been a few months, but it was about, for 2% increase, it was about $53,000 at the time for 1 year, which would then be, it's a one-time increase, but that would continue on, of course. It just wouldn't keep escalating up based on.
Yeah, so you would, remember that we were talking about paying off that past service liability? This would increase the past service liability, so you'd have to pay off with amortization each year. Is that what you said? It costs $53,000 a year in amortization?
Right, yeah.
However many years the amortization goes on. I wish I knew that answer off the top of my head, but I don't. So, but it's safe to say it's going to be more than 1 year of $53,000 payments.
Councilor Heath?
So I don't want to make an assumption, but it sounds like we're moving in the direction of hybrid programs.
I'd like to learn more about the new plan too, but yeah. And for some of the groups, the defined contribution might make sense too. I think we want to look at all those. But the main thing is to get away from the defined benefit.
Yeah, sometimes it's an easier transition to go to a hybrid plan than straight to defined contribution.
And that's what we did where my last position. Because it's a while before you realize any savings when you go directly to a defined contribution. So hybrid kind of a good plan to go to.
Yeah, so if you were to give everybody a defined contribution plan with that same 6% of pay that we talked about, it would cost you more than that because then you have to buy them a disability benefit too, or self-insured or something.
Do any of the counselors have questions?
So if they wanted to do a COLA for the retirees, what's the process?
Well, usually, do you have a pension plan document? Or
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you would amend the plan document and state, what the cost of living is going to be, what's the effective date, is there any eligibility for it? Do you want to give it to people that just retired? Do you want to give it to people that retired 5 or more years ago? So there's a group that you want to define who would get it.
So essentially amend it, and then this council would take action to adopt that new updated plan. That would be it? Okay.
And then when we did the next valuation, we'd start funding for it.
Okay.
So then as we're reading and discussing this, when we come across questions, we can forward them to the manager, and then he can be in touch with you to answer any more questions that we might have. Anyone else have anything this evening?
So there's a couple questions. The amortization period, I got to get back to you on the amortization period. In the chart with the rate of return. That was another question. I'm just trying to think what other questions you had for me that I wasn't able to answer right now.
Bless you. All right.
Very good, thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much for coming
Thanks
down.
for inviting me.
Okay, since we're in the mode of rearranging things, did we want to take care of Colonel Ledyard, or do we want to go to Merritt next, Mr. Manager?
Colonel Ledyard, good.
I agree.
You agree? Okay. So we will go to 2017-0159, Colonel Ledyard School Site. And we have several people from the city of Groton here. If you'd like to come up, if you want to talk to us about it, you're welcome to. And this
just
is...
to point out, though, I think we have 3 items in a row that would be the city, so just...
Okay. So this item, please, welcome, come on up. We can do all 3 at once, since you all are waiting. This was the very first thing after the minutes. So this is the 2017-0159 Colonel Ledyard School Site. Hello, gentlemen. Mr. Mayor, would you like to introduce your staff for us, please?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
This is Ron Uhas. He is the finance director. And this is Tim Unrich. He is the public works director.
Thank you. Did you want to talk?
Well, I sent a letter to Chairman Colonel Ledyard back to you. We had leased, the city of Groton had leased the Colonel Ledyard School for $1 a year. We're under a 75-year lease. There were build-outs that we were going to do on the school, and we got started, and then we had some events, financial events that occurred. Part of that was when the Pfizer building was torn down, and so we stopped. And now at the point of where it is with the funds and the way the money is, I do not intend to continue that project or try to start the project. So I wanted to return it back to the town so that you could put it on your list of available properties. It's about an 8.2 acre property over there. I took Town Manager Burt over the other day. He went in, we went inside, we walked the grounds outside. And that's pretty much it. It is currently shut down, but we have a security system installed and is active. So that's something that you'll need to decide whether or not you want to keep it active. If you want to keep it active, we'll call the RU agency and we'll get them to just transfer it over. If not, then we'll secure it.
So if you look at the first page of the memorandum from Mr. Burt, there are 3 alternatives at the bottom of the page, and at this point, we should figure out what we want to do. So the first alternative is to agree to take back the property and take over the security monitoring. Second one is to take back the property and terminate the security monitoring, or do nothing and continue to lease the property to the city. So those are the 3 things we have to decide what we'd like to do with this evening. So if you have to ask any questions in order to make that determination, now would be a good time. Councilor Atwater.
As to the security system?
Well, are you talking about the monthly cost?
Yeah.
And what,
Well, we've installed it. I do not intend to try to recoup the cost of the cameras or anything like that. It's now a monthly cost, just like what you would have on a residence or on another commercial building. That's all I would be interested in transferring over, is that amount, which is the monthly amount for the service.
and
you know,
that amount
I
is,
don't know.
Around $60.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Franklin.
Do we typically, John,
I was just asking Gary that. Gary, do we typically have security on our buildings? Like,
Public Works Director Schneider is here to answer that question.
The answer is no. The answer is no. We have Groton High School in the city of Groton. No alarms on that building, no nothing. So all we'll do is that when we receive this building, we'll put it down in cold storage. We'll pump the heating oil out, lock her down, and we'll get with the fire marshal and the fire chief in that area to make sure that they may want the fire alarm active. But for security, there's no reason for it. All of our other schools that were vacant schools had all of the security items. There were none. We'll just make sure. We do inspect the sites about once a week with my own forces, so if there is any entry, we'll then notify the police, but I can't see spending that monthly fee.
And there is nothing, to add to that, there is nothing peripherable in the building. Everything has been cleaned out. It has been broom cleaned. One of the reasons that we had it secured was that it is at the end of a cul-de-sac, so it is off and away, and we had furniture in there, and we were concerned about vandalism, so that's why we did that.
Councilor Zafari?
I noticed at the Sealy School, there's a good deal of vandalism. There's an awful lot of graffiti on the walls, and would a security system discourage that? The other thing I would comment, as we're hearing about this, is we could take this with the security system in place and active, and then at any time in the future we decide that it's not worth it, we can discontinue it at that time. Whereas if we discontinue it now, to reactivate it, I think would be a more problem.
Councilor Heed?
Does that security system, are the cameras outside the building as well, or is it only inside?
They're just inside, right?
There's cameras on the outside that are monitored by the city police department. And then there's the alarm system and one camera in the inside of the building.
That building was the subject of a blight complaint previously.
Yes, it was.
So I would also be in favor of number 1,
Which is?
keeping the
security.
$60 cost.
The issue with the blight complaint, there was a blight complaint that was made. We did follow through with it. We have boarded up all of the windows. There were some windows that had been broken out, and an opportunity was taken to file a blight complaint. We have now boarded everything up, and there shouldn't be anything there. I'm looking to hold you guys harmless for any blight issues. I know that was an issue that was brought up by the previous council, but we have taken action to ensure everything that was associated with the original blight complaint has been completed. So that's not a problem anymore.
Mr. Schneider?
Okay, what I'd just like to add, if the alarms go to the city police will get the alarms, and then they're going to call my department on overtime to go there and secure the building. So that's added cost too. It's not just the $62 a month. It'll be the overtime cost. Again, we have Groton Heights there that is unsecured, it's locked up, we do patrol it. If the Colonel Ledyard School does become part of my holdings, we'll be looking at putting Jersey barriers in to limit the access to the back. Getting, of course, again with the fire company and fire marshal, so they can still have access to that building. So we'll try to limit as much as possible. But just the added cost is just not the $62 a month. I think that's the hurt of cost, but it's whenever the city police have need a response, the key holder has to go there, and that's my people, and it's on overtime.
Councilman Moravsik and then Parker.
Yeah, I agree with Gary's comment. One question I had, how is the roof on that building?
We replaced, when we got it from the town, as it was leaking, we replaced the roof because we had intended to inhabit the entire building. So the roof's what, 5 years old?
Yeah, 4 to 5 years old.
The roof is 4 to 5
Okay,
years old.
thank
It
you.
is a new roof. It doesn't leak.
Thank you.
Councilor Parker.
Groton Heights, you said you monitor, does that mean you're monitoring at night or just during the day?
On Groton Heights, it's, we just come around the building once a week during the day to see if there's any vandalism, any broken windows, any graffiti that we remove as soon as we see it. If there's graffiti on Sealy School, I'll get with the Parks and Rec director who still occupies that building, and we'll get it removed because that's not tolerated on any of our buildings.
Councilor
Graffiti
Aubry?
When I visited, graffiti was enormous on that building.
Councilor Aubry, it's, floor is yours.
I should never wait, because then I forget. I have a good question, too. It'll come back to me.
Councilor Schmidt.
Is there water in the building, is available in the building, or is that going to be turned off?
The water's been shut off and draining.
Oh, good.
No water left.
Right.
Councilor Aubry's ready. Go ahead.
There used to be a system where if you had a building like that, you would give a key to the police department. And so if there was a problem, they could enter. I would expect that that would take care of a midnight call. If they have a key, they can go in, they can check it, and it's no big deal for anybody.
If they're willing to do that, I'd be happy to give them a key. Happy to give them a lockbox and a key. Happy to give them a fob and a key and a key and a key.
Mayor Hedrick.
All the doors, with the exception of the front doors, are chained and locked. So I don't think you're gonna have a problem with that. I also think, Gary, if you could chain the front if you wanted to or whatever, I'm in agreement with you. I don't think the security system is necessary for an empty building that's not gonna be used. Like I said, the reason we had it is because we had furniture and things like that in there that were purifiable at the time. So
There's actually 2 systems. There's an interior or a perimeter outside system. That you're paying $60-some a month for. If somebody opens a door or gets inside, it'll set off the sensors. The cameras are a different system. That's set up and paid for, and that's just monitored by several screens at the police dispatch center. And the only problems in the last 3 years, there's an outside agency that the alarm goes to. They'll call me, and I'll make the decision to call the police or go up there myself. But the last 4 years, the only problems we've had are with bats setting off the sensors on the inside of the building. They'll set the motion sensors off.
The bats?
Bats.
Are the bats there now?
Go up and see it, dark.
Are there any
Not
other
at night.
questions, or are you prepared to give guidance to the manager? No other questions? What is the consensus? Are we leaning one way or another?
Number 1.
Number one.
Okay, so we're mixed here. So the number 1 is to maintain, or to, so we're all in agreement to take back the building, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're all in agreement to take back the building. So then that leads us to, do we want to have the building with the security monitoring that we're paying for, or are we just going to terminate it? And it sounds like the mayor and the public works director from the town both say it's unnecessary. So are we in agreement to move with alternative 2, which is to take back the building and terminate the security monitoring system? Yes, would you like to speak?
No.
Okay, did you want to speak?
I was just gonna say, I really don't think $60 a month is probably gonna break Groton. And if it's there, it's foolish not to use it. So I'm in favor of number 1.
Anyone else?
Number 1.
Okay.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Two. Yeah, so it's a consensus that terminate the mutual agreement with the lease for the City of Groton Colonel Ledyard School and terminate the security monitoring system.
Don't we have to vote? So you have a number?
You actually need a vote? Okay. So would someone like to, where'd we leave off? Somewhere down here, would someone like to make a motion for alternative 2?
Also move.
Moved by Schmidt, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by
Hold on one,
Atwater.
please.
All those in favor of alternative 2, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aubrey and Perry are opposed. Any abstentions? So that passes 7 in favor of alternative 2, 2 opposed, and 0 abstaining. Thank you. All right, so now we are on to 2018-0060 Road Reconstruction Bond Year 6 projects, and this follows right along in your packet. I believe that's the next one. Road Reconstruction, yes, Year 6 projects.
What page was that? We
It
have a handout that will make
followed
this-
right after the Colonel Ledyard one, so keep going. It looks like this from Gary Schneider. Thanks. Thank you, sir. You're looking, it says annual resurfacing report to town council. There you go.
So the report that I just handed out is the history of the road bond as it relates to the town roads within the city.
Could the people in the audience, it's hard to hear the speakers, please. Thank you.
So you can see on the front page of it, this actually starts off in 2013 when the road bond was first put together. And the first piece that was used was for Groton Estates. And it just goes through each year as these projects have progressed through and what roads have been paved, just so you have the whole history of it instead of just where we're going forward. So that brings you from 2013 right up through 2017 as far as the projects and the roads that have been completed to date. At the end of 2017, the city still had $569,853 of bond funds remaining for future roads, which last year, I believe everybody, the Groton Long Point, the town of Groton, and the city all still had remaining bond funds, which has extended this program from the 5-year original to the 6-year and forward. On the very back page is our projected paving projects for the 2018 calendar year. These include Benham Road, Eastern Point Road, and the finishing up of the Shore Ave seawall drainage and engineering project. The projected paving costs for this year are around $532,000, which will leave around just under $38,000 of remaining bond funds as kind of a little bit of a variance in case some of these projects go over.
You said the last page?
Yep, on the very back.
Right here.
On the very back. Oh, okay. Thank you.
So the city is projected to pretty much use up all of our bond fund by the end of calendar year 2018 or have very little remaining. So that's kind of our history and kind of where we've been and where we plan to go.
Okay.
And Gary's here also to give an update.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if did you want to come up and? So if everyone, can we just invite everyone to the table to come up and we can all have the discussion at once? You gentlemen could just introduce yourself for everybody watching, please. Thank you.
Steve Panicore, Public Works Director for Groton Long Point.
And I'm Mike Flynn, the president of the Groton Long Point Association.
Thank you, gentlemen. Groton Long Point, would you like to go next and just let us know where you are?
The road bond fund has been very beneficial over the last 5 years to Groton Long Point. One point that I would like to make before we get into monetary issues or spending of it is that the Public Works Department here in Groton, I think, is outstanding. Gary Schneider and the people that work under him have done 4 years' worth of work at Groton Long Point, and the job comes out terrific, always on time, under payment, and they are very professional. I just wanted to give them some credit. Last year we had 2 roads done, and this year we are asking for 3 roads, Burroughs, Crescent, and Tautog. And we would like to continue with this. It's been very beneficial, and hopefully the funding will result in issuance of maybe a future, another 5-year road bond fund.
And Mr. Schneider.
And for the town of Groton, I do believe the council has my report, several pages long, but if you go to page 3, the paving schedule for calendar year 2018, what is really falling together is the coordination with Eversource. They are installing their gas mains in the area, so we are, in the positive way, chasing them instead of we paving the roads and then they are ripping them up. So what we're proposing for the year 2018 is to do several roads up in the northeast section of town. North Stonington Road is a small section of road. This is by the North Stonington Road Bridge, but the road is deteriorated, and we shouldn't wait any longer. Shoeville Road, again, is a small section of road up there. Shouldn't wait any longer. High Street, which would be from we call it the upper and lower end, but from West Main Street to Latham Street, will be redone. But that'll be in cooperation with Eversource, which now owns the water company, the Aquarian Water Company. They'll be starting next Tuesday, replacing the main in High Street. We are coordinating with them that they'll go in first, do all their main work, all their lateral work. That'll be done by the end of June, and then we'll be able to hop right in there to reclaim the road, compact it, and put 2 courses of asphalt down. So there will be some disruption in the neighborhood, but it'll be one period of time, not 2. So that's very exciting, working with the water company, Aquarian, and working with Eversource to get gas mains through the eastern section of town and then resurfacing the roads. Thomas Road is also on the schedule too, to do that road. And then there's a small shared entrance to Grosso Gardens, the ambulance building. That was CIP funded, but that will be included in our schedule. Also on page 3, does it identify the roads in 2019 and 2020? And those are the roads in 2020. The reason it goes out that far is that Eversource will have completed its main work this year. We'd like the trenches to settle a year in 2019 and then go on there and reclaim those roads. These roads haven't been done in this section of town. It was a new subdivision that was built in the late 1980s. So new subdivision. It's newer houses. The road is it's not new anymore. It needs to be done. It's been a very positive program, as we have been doing work for Groton Long Point, and we wish to do the roads again this year. So with that, on page 4 is all the roads that we've done. We were able to add a couple roads in that weren't in the original bond issue through council action. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Mr. Schneider provided some maps, including showing where Aquarian and Eversource are doing their work, so you can understand better what he was talking about there. So that's great. Councilor Morris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got a question for the Groton Long Point, Steve. Island Circle South, is that on the agenda for this year? And the seawall?
Not on the agenda this year because of cost. Island Circle South is a road that borders Mumford Cove. The wall that prevents the water from underlying the road and underpinning it is falling apart. The money to fix that on estimates that we've gotten is far much more than we have anything in reserve for, and at this point we just don't have the money. At the same time, the pipes underneath, water pipes that run alongside of the road, need to be replaced. So instead of ripping up the road twice, it's a job of doing the road, building the revetment wall, and at the same time replacing water pipes to the individual houses. and cash is not there to do all that at this time.
I suggest that, you know, the city has rebuilt some of their seawalls on one of the roads. I suggest that we get that estimate up to the town manager so that maybe if we go for another bonding for the future, that will be included in it, because that will help, that's our infrastructure down there. It'll ruin that road. You know, and I know the cost is high, but this is the way it has to fall.
Will do, thank you.
Do any of the councilors have questions? Yes,
I have
Councilor
one. On
Franco.
page 4, Mr. Schneider, on section 2, it says Thomas Road approval is pending. Approval is pending. What does exactly that mean?
Since it was not added, since it wasn't part of the original bond referendum, I think the microphone's on, the council needs to formally add that to the list of roads as they've done in the past. So I'm presenting that to the council tonight, so I don't know if it takes a consensus or a resolution, but I need council authorization to add that to the list and then expend bond money for it. What I recommended before is to use the bond road money, because we have it there, there is enough there, and then the funds that were allocated to that project in the capital improvement program or LoCIP would go into those undesignated fund balance, or will go into the fund balances for those two funds that could be used for either resurfacing or other projects, other CIP projects.
Thank you.
Mr. Burt, was Thomas Road placed in the CIP for this year?
No, we were going to do this separately.
So
here.
separately,
Yeah.
okay. So will you need something from us tonight then?
What's your timeline on it, Gary?
We would like to start in the next couple of weeks on that, at least. Well, we'd like to start in the spring. We have a little bit of time.
Okay. I mean, but if you wanted to recommend it to the council, we'll have everything prepared for then.
Councilor Obrey and then Parker.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in the course of looking into Thomas Road, can we look into past funding for that? That was funded many, many years ago. I don't know where the money went, but it was funded.
We received much background information, and I have it here somewhere.
Okay.
But I think it was sent to us at one point since we've been sitting on the council, so I'm sure it'll be easy enough to track
Gary, if you
again.
could send that to me, I'll pass it on.
Sure. I could send a recap from the finance director, account numbers and balances.
Thank you. Councilor Parker?
Is this, Thomas Road was the road we discussed like a month or so ago,
Right,
correct?
right.
That we're still gonna pave it where there's a bike path and a walkway for the people?
There's going to be 2 bike lanes on either side of the pavement, so it's going to be a little wider road, but with a striped or marked, traffic marked bike lane on either side, 4 foot wide. My engineering division is completing and I use the word design, because all we're needed to do is to make sure that we're staying within the right of way. We have to stay away from wetlands and that, so there's going to be a little bit of a meander, but nothing, something the eye can see, but nothing drastic going down the road. Then we'll get with our wetlands agency, our wetlands planner, and make sure we have all the sedimentation controls up, and then we'll be ready to go.
And we're double checking with Groton Utilities because of the pipes underneath, correct?
We do coordinate with them. The Groton Utilities, the electric division, just completed a replacement of an underground wire there already. We have been talking with their water division as part of the bike project, so we are good to, I do believe we're good to go, but we'll make that clarification. And bottom line, we don't want to resurface the road and all of a sudden we're digging it back up again for a utility issue.
Councilor Franco?
So when we pave Thomas Road, will we just go up to the bridge? Is that the farthest we're going?
Correct, because the city of Groton has done their side already. 2 years ago, a year ago? You've paved,
years ago.
yeah, several,
4 years ago.
Oh, well, time flies, 4 years ago.
Okay.
So their side is completed.
Okay.
Councilor Heath? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Smith.
I just wanted to make sure that my impression is correct, that the funding for Thomas Road has already been allocated under LoCIP funds, so that we're not going to have to bond for that particular part of it.
Well, the LoCIP and the capital improvement program funds that have been allocated to the Thomas Road Bikeway If you would want to use those funds for resurfacing, you'll take an action of the council and the RTM, so we're looking at 90 days. My recommendation was there's enough savings in the road bond project to pave, to add Thomas Road into it. That only takes council action.
And we'll use those LoSiP dollars for other things anyhow.
Correct. They go back into those fund balances to be used for other projects, could be other resurfacing projects.
Anyone else? So then,
To move something tonight.
that's what I was going to ask. Do you want us
Yeah.
to move something on the whole package or on Thomas Road only?
Do we need actual approval for the full packs? Okay, I guess for everything, and specify to move forward with the Thomas Road,
Do you want to
since it
contract?
says
Give it a shot.
pending.
Hereby move accepting the Public Works Department resurfacing report for calendar year 2017 and
Subdivisions.
sorry.
Get the subdivisions as well. We should include the
I would include the
subdivisions as
Groton
well.
on Point in the city.
All right.
So, how to start? The council would like to acknowledge, endorse the plans put forth by the Town Public Works Department, the City Public Works Department, and the Groton Long Point Public Works Department as laid out here tonight, and specifically to direct the town manager to facilitate the pavement of Thomas Road as per prior discussion.
Perfect.
Great.
Second.
I so move.
Second.
Second, moved by Granatowski, seconded by Marosik. All those in favor, don't make me repeat it. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out this evening. And we have with us the mayor, the finance director, and Mr. Schneider, because now we are on to 2018-0077 Town City Highway Analysis. And this is just following right in order in your packet. And I don't know which of you gentlemen want to, Mr. Burt, would you like to start?
And this is what we've been discussing for quite some time on the road study, just looking at essentially a comparison between the town and the city and best practices. The total cost is, if you do the full plan, is up to 70,000, not to exceed 70,000. We would pay 50%, the city would pay 50%. It's going through their process currently, I believe, for their 50%.
Yes, it was on our committee the whole last night and was moved to the mayor council meeting of April 2nd.
So if you look at the back of the page, there are three alternatives to consider. The first is to transfer from contingency to public works and authorize the manager to sign the contract. The second is to deny the request for supplemental funding, and the third is to perform the work internally. The recommendation of the town manager and city mayor is alternative 1.
And to refer it to 6.5.3 to the RTM for
Right.
speedy approval.
Right, 653 just gets it through the RTM more quickly than having to stall on this. So is there any discussion about the three alternatives? Do you have any questions for any of the gentlemen present that are representing? Someone like to move this?
I'll go ahead and move option number 1, transfer from contingency to public works and authorize the town manager to sign the contract. Once the funding is in place, the comparative analysis can begin.
Moved by Heat, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Zepari. Any discussion?
Will we
Councilor Aubrey?
eventually see the outcome of the study?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be everywhere.
How long is it going to take?
that's
Did
sorry,
they
go ahead.
estimate?
I think the hope is maybe, 3-4 months in that range, if all goes well. So, 5-6 months.
Okay. Anyone else? Do you have a question, Councilor Parker?
No, just want to add, should we also say we're referring it to RTM 6.5?
Yeah, he added that in.
No, you
but-
didn't.
You didn't add it in?
You can. Recommendation to the town manager and city mayor to recommend alternative 1 and refer to RTM 6.5.3.
Second.
Okay, moved by Heat, seconded by Parker. I thought we had done it, I apologize. All right, so if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of alternative 1, which is transfer from contingency to public works and authorizing the manager to sign the contract, and refer to RTM 653. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, so moved unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. I think that's everything, right?
What's that?
I think that's everything.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Town Council.
Thank you for coming out. All right, so do we want to keep finishing out the rest of the items and then go to the biggies at the end?
It's up to you. I think we are paying for the attorneys though, but.
We are?
We're
paying for the attorney, so let's do that one. All right, so we're back up to the top of the agenda, 2016-0256, Merritt property conversion, and we have our town attorney here. Well, let's see, do we want to stay here, or do we want to?
I would say let's go to the other room since we have quite a few people here, if that's okay.
All right, so.
We have to vote to go into executive session.
Yes, so, we don't have to suspend rules, right? Do we have to suspend rules? No.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'll make a motion for executive session. I hereby move that the members of the Town Council Committee of the Whole, Town Manager John Burt, School Superintendent Mike Grenier, and Town Attorneys Eileen Dugan and Eric Callahan go into executive session pursuant to General Statute, Section 1-206B, for the purpose of strategy and negotiations with respect to pending claims or pending litigation in reference to the new middle school.
Moved by Heed, is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Heed, seconded by Franco to go into executive session to consider the various legal aspects of the Merritt property school building. All those in favor of going into executive session say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, so moved unanimously to enter into executive session. And we're gonna relocate? Okay. Okay, we are out of executive session, and we're going to be taking up the rest of the agenda in a minute, but I forgot to read this earlier. The Planning Commission reviewed the referral about leasing the Town Hall Annex to the Fire Marshal, and it was approved, and I should have mentioned that before we actually voted on it. So just as a process thing, that was done. So everything is, we've tied up all the loose ends with that. Okay, so now we have Councilor Franco, please.
I'm going to read this.
So
All right.
for 2016-0256 and 2017-0298 is what this is in reference to.
I move that the town attorney take the legal steps needed to effectuate the town's rights and interests related to the use of the Merritt property and to direct the town manager to explore additional properties, including the King property, to place the conservation easement upon. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Franco, seconded by, who said that, Marovsek? Okay. So I'm assuming there's no further discussion. Okay, so all those in favor of the resolution that Councilor Franco read, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, so moved unanimously.
Was everybody able to hear that? I didn't think so. They couldn't hear.
You couldn't hear me?
Oh, because
All right.
the mic is- No, it's-
Shane, is Councilor Franco's mic picking up?
Everything is live.
Everything is live.
Speak into the mic.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Would you like it? We're not going to vote again. She's just going to reread it so that the people sitting here can hear it.
I move that the town attorney take the legal steps needed to effectuate the town's rights and interests related to the use of the Merritt property and to direct the town manager to explore additional properties, including the King property, to place a conservation easement upon.
And that was moved, seconded, and voted unanimously. So now we're on to 2018-0068, Supplemental Appropriation from Capital Reserve for Library Senior Center Variable Message Display Sign. And Parks Director Mark Berry is here, as well as Ms. Riley from the Senior Center.
0068.
2018-0068. This is buzzing now.
Easement.
You know, it doesn't have, it's not paginated, so perhaps that's something we could request that the packets, after everything's put together, they be paginated, that way it's easier to find things.
Did you get that, Nikki?
Hi. Okay. Hi. Good evening. Is that on?
Yes.
Hear me?
It, Mark says, I don't know.
We're here this evening to discuss the purchase of a variable message display using funds from the Groton Parks Foundation and financing the remaining $20,000 of the purchase through a supplemental appropriation of the Capital Reserve Fund, which would be repaid from a Millstone grant. The proposed location of the variable message display is at the entrance of the driveway that leads into both the senior center and the library. The variable message display would replace the existing sign. Currently, the library and senior center utilize sandwich boards to promote the different programs and activities that are going on in both places. That limits the amount of information that we're able to get out to the public with programs that are taking place on a daily basis. The variable message display would allow us to display all the different programs and activities that are going on that day and those that are coming up in the near future. The proposed sign is, well, it's like 7 by 3, so it's about 21 square feet. It would be installed on 2 steel posts, 5-inch posts. There would be a sign over the variable message display that would identify that that was the area for, or that was the entrance for both the library and the senior center. Acting as the fiduciary, the Groton Parks Foundation has $7,355 for this project. Club 55 of the Senior Center has spearheaded most of the fundraisers through individuals, donations from different civic organizations, and also a $20,000 reimbursable grant from Millstone obtained through the Town of Groton Office of Emergency Management. And we do have additional grants that are pending. Since the Millstone grant is a reimbursable grant, a $20,000 supplemental appropriation from the Capital Reserve Fund is needed to complete the purchase and installation of the sign. The town would be reimbursed once the material had been submitted to Millstone and they had issued the check, so that would come back to the town. The anticipated total cost for the sign and installation is $26,800. I did want to note at the bottom it says here that permitting for the sign has been approved by the town. That we are still going through the permitting process but don't anticipate any issues. So we've proposed 2 different alternatives. Option 1 is to approve a $20,000 supplemental appropriation for the Capital Reserve Fund for the purchase and installation of a new variable message display and refer to RTM 653. Option 2 would be to continue fundraising and seeking grants as needed until the sign can be paid for in full without money from a supplemental appropriation.
So
And staff recommends, staff recommends alternative 1.
Okay. So are there questions for Mr. Berry or Ms. Riley? Councilor Zepari.
I just want to make it clear, you're saying that if we do appropriate this money, when you will continue to apply for the grants, and the grant money that you get for this will be returned to the general fund?
Yes. The Millstone grant is for $20,000. So we're only asking for a $20,000 supplemental appropriation. So that would, the money, the first dollars that are spent would be from the Millstone grant. And so once all that money is spent, then we could submit the paperwork to Millstone and
the town would be reimbursed for the $20,000.
So actually, this comes out to be neutral. It's a zero, even though we're appropriating the money's coming back.
Yes, exactly. It's essentially you're providing us what I hope would be a zero interest loan.
Okay, so would you move option 1 for us, Councilor Zepari?
Yes. I move that the council approve a $20,000 supplemental appropriation from the Capital Reserve Fund for the purchase and installation of a new variable message display and refer to RTM 6.5.3.
Second.
Moved by Zepari and seconded by Heed. There's no further discussion. All those in favor of option 1, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, so moved unanimously. Thank you. And you're here for 2018-0069 as well, the naming of the community center at Fitch Middle School.
That is correct. So this issue is whether to select a name for that portion of the building where Parks and Recreation will be relocating a majority of their programming. Currently, as everyone knows, we're operating out of William Seeley. We are transitioning into a new location, the Fitch Middle School, and we saw this as an opportunity to demonstrate to the community that the community is committed to a quality of place. Identifying this space as a community center will resonate with businesses and people as they consider how to improve the livability of their community or to choose whether to settle here. Our goal, once we move in, is to create a thriving hub of activity just by capitalizing on the fact that we're now in the center of Groton, and there's a number of municipal services and other recreational facilities in the area. So we're hoping that and planning that more people will be participating in programs just due to the proximity of the new location. The town did go, or the department did go through an exercise where we put out a press release. We created a website where people could go and make suggestions for different names. We had over 200 responses, and the top 2 responses were the Groton Community Center and the Fitch Community Center. I did check the town deed to see if there was any requirement that that building continue to be called the Fitch Middle School. There was nothing in that deed. I did reach out to the town historian, and he said that he could find nothing that committed the town to maintaining the name on that building. And I also checked with the previous director of facilities for the Board of Ed, Mr. Greenleaf, and he said that he was not aware of any commitment. He had never seen anything that committed the town to continuing to call it the Fitch. Well, I think originally it was called the Fitch High School, and then it changed to the Fitch Middle School. So we see there's 3 potential options. Select a name from the 2 top responses collected from the public survey, continue to look for other names for that space, or don't adopt a name for that space and continue to identify it as Fitch Middle School. And staff is recommending alternative 1.
Would anyone like to move alternative 1? Councilor Schmidt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Schmidt, seconded by Heed, that we select a name from the top 2 responses collected from the public survey. Is there discussion on these 2? Councilor Rosick?
Yeah, I like Groton Community Center because this is the town of Groton. If you call it Fitch Community Center, it may not have that same understanding with a lot of people from outside that are coming into the town for whatever program is being set up.
Councilor Aubry?
Well, I kind of like, I'd like to keep Fitch in there just as continuity for the fact that we've known it as Fitch, or I have, for as long as I lived here. And I think if it was the Groton Fitch Community Center, it would keep that continuity. They know it's a town facility, and it would just carry on. There's got to be some reason why it was named Fitch. I think the gentleman did give a lot of money for it to be built. And is that, what are you laughing about?
I was thinking Rachel just told us about that at the last meeting, I think, one of the meetings.
Well, I just think it would be good if we made it both.
Counselor Parker?
It was originally Fitch High School, and then it went to Fitch Junior, then it went to
Fitch Middle.
Then it went to Fitch Middle School. So, and I know several people who still live in the area went to Fitch as a high school, as a junior/middle school. I prefer to have the name Fitch in it, at least. And then you can always put, like you said, Groton, Fitch, Community Center, continuity.
Counselor
We
Franco?
don't want to take away our history from the area either.
All right, so I have two things. First, it says we're going to select the name for that portion of the building. So are we renaming the whole building, or are we just naming that little section, the middle section, not little, I'm sorry, the middle section that's going to be the recreation center?
Yes, my proposal, or the department's proposal, was just to rename the section of the building that we are moving into.
So that would be towards, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That would be towards the back?
It would include, well, it's essentially wings B and C, and it would also include the gym area. So wing C is where the cafeteria was. Wing B is that wing in between C and where the gym is.
So where we should propose...
Counselor Franco didn't get to finish her questions. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
You can go back.
So are we going to change the name is the goal to change the name on the front of the building? Is that what we're doing here? Or are we trying to make the community center have a name? That's what
Kind of
from the
both.
beginning, I'm having a problem.
We've had comments about people being confused by it saying Fitch Middle School. But the main idea is to get a name that they can publicize for it. And we put a sign up somewhere for it so people can see that.
I personally would like Fitch on the front of the building and to remain there as
And the
there
larger
is
complex could
history.
include that name, yeah.
And if you want to name the community center something different, that's fine. I just would rather have Fitch still on the front of the building, and there is history. It was Charles Fitch donated the money and said, name it after my son, and he's the one who donated the money to build the building.
We could take off for now just the middle school part, leave Fitch on
Yeah.
the side, and then maybe it's eventually whatever kind of, we have the annex here, whatever name we come up with for the complex there,
Right.
as we put more
Because that's what I was
services.
wondering. Are we putting the name also over on that side of the building where the entryway will be to the rec center or the recreational area?
Yes, I think that would be our intention, is the new section, the new entrance to C Wing is going to be right adjacent. There's a set of double doors right next to the gym, or I'm sorry, to the cafeteria.
So then it
And
sounds
you
like...
probably have a sign at the road too, is directing community center, like.
Yeah, we
directing
would
people
have
in,
to
right?
put up appropriate signage.
So
to
does
help.
what the manager suggested agreeable to everybody if we keep the word Fitch on the front of the building and name the community center Groton Community Center? Is that acceptable to everybody?
Groton Community Center with the
And
name
leave the
Fitch.
Fitch on the, maybe we could call it Fitch Building, a Fitch
Something,
Building or
well,
something like
something,
that
yeah.
or something. Did you have a comment?
Well, I was just going to say, I think we're voting on the name for the community center, not the front of the building. I mean, I think that should all be dealt with at a future time. And I don't, and I personally agree with Rich. I think Groton Community Center makes sense to me. I moved here recently, and there's enough confusion about other names that it would be simple if it were just the Groton Community Center.
I like Groton Community Center as well.
I do too.
Now that I understand it.
You know, it's kind of funny. In 1959, I was part of a group of Fitch High School students who came to the town council to object to the town council's intention to change the name of our high school from Robert E. Fitch to the Groton High School. And we prevailed. And it has been named Robert E. Fitch ever since. The Fitch name the property, as I understand it, was donated by Fitch with the condition that the high school be named Fitch. That is where the present middle school is. But as far as I think that Rich's point about making it clear, and David's point about making it clear what this is the Groton Community Center. And we should commemorate Fitch in some way. But I don't know that we need to name the community center after him.
I agree with Councilor Perry. So then, okay, and then we should probably.
I just have one other, a couple of years ago, we had a concept plan where we were going to move a lot of the departments into that building. So that might still occur in the future. So we should keep that in mind, that the first and second floors might be filled up with department people.
Right. Okay, so then we're voting to select a name from the top 2 responses collected from the public survey, and are we going to vote that that name is Groton Community Center? All those in favor of Groton Community Center say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? So moved
Abstain.
unanimously. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Abstain.
So 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstaining. Parker is abstaining.
With the addition that Fitch stays on the front.
I'm going to remove middle school if that's
Oh,
okay. I'll
middle
just leave
school.
Fitch.
I want
Great.
to see you doing that up on the
He'll be on a
ladder.
ladder, Leanne. Okay.
Don't tell Bob I'm not there.
So we are on to 2018-0074, and this is Mary Jo Riley, the Senior Center Supervisor, is applying for a grant from Pfizer, and we have 2 options, and they are apply for the grant or do not apply for the grant. So this is pretty straightforward. You want to give us a quick rundown on what it is?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we would like to apply for a one-time grant, $5,000 for a Pfizer grant, and the grant would be used for a program called Senior Center Without Limits, or Virtual Senior Center. Just a little bit of background. Almost 6% of the Medicare population, or 2 million Americans, are homebound, which means they never or rarely leave their home. In a sense, they become isolated from the community. Virtual Senior Center provides 2-way interactive online classes, discussions, and activities in which people that are homebound can see and talk to their fellow students, and other students can see and talk to them. The Senior Center plans to offer daily options for classes where seniors can log in and participate virtually. Instructors and other participants will also be able to talk to the homebound participants during a class. The center would purchase laptops, enhanced video cards, webcams for the laptops, and wireless heads for the program. Seniors who are at their own home, as well as seniors in assisted living centers, would be able to go to zoom.us online and log in onto a class with a code for the program. Of individuals 65 or over, 65% are connected to the internet. So the short-term goal is to encourage individuals who are isolated from the community. The long-term goal is to reduce their social isolation and improve homebound persons' well-being. Research on virtual senior centers shows that there is a reduction in the feeling of isolation by 85% and a 60% reduction in the feeling of being disconnected from the community.
So Councilor Morosic, would you like to move alternative 1, please?
Back of the page.
Which is, I can do it. I move that we approve the application of a Pfizer grant for $5,000.
Second.
Moved by Granatowski, seconded by Schmidt. Any questions? Yes, Councilor Franco, and then Councilor Heath.
Sounds like a wonderful.
So there's no match.
Councilor Franco
You're
and
just
Councilor
applying for
That's
a
correct.
grant, and that's all you're asking for.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Councilor Heath?
This is just a one-time grant to set up the program, and then it just runs.
That's correct, yes.
Great. Councilor Aubrey?
I just think it sounds like a wonderful program. I hope it grows.
Yeah, thank you, so do we.
All those in favor of alternative 1, to authorize the Mary Jo Riley to apply for the Pfizer local community grant for the senior center, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Moved unanimously. Thank you very much for your patience and waiting. So we are
Thank you.
on down to 2018-0070, and Chief Pizarro is here, and Mr. Zagami is here as well, filling the patrol officer position in the police department.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for your patience.
I'm here before you in reference to a vacancy we currently have in the police department. We're looking to get authorization to fill that, and this is as a result of the hiring freeze that was put in place sometime last in the last summer, fall, somewhere in that time frame. But as part of the process, we are required to forecast academy seats. We do have some forecasted. We currently have a vacancy. Recently lost a detective who retired. I anticipate additional vacancies conceivably in the next several months. So I come before you requesting authorization for that fill.
Councilor Parker?
How many would that put you at?
That will put us 2 below our authorized staffing of 67.
Thank you.
Second.
No one's moved it yet, so would you move the, okay, we want to discuss then move. All right, go ahead, Councilor Heed, I'm sorry.
It's okay. This is an entry-level patrol officer
That's
position.
right. It'd be someone that would go to the academy.
I assume it's already in the budget.
It is.
Okay, would someone like to
So
move an
I will
alternative?
move alternative 1, authorize the hiring of a full-time patrol officer.
Councilor Schmidt, seconds. Moved by Heed, seconded by Schmidt. To authorize the hiring of a full-time patrol officer, it's already budgeted for, so there's no new money. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so moved unanimously. And then the last item for Chief is 2018-0029, adoption of an ordinance amending various ordinances to increase fines.
Yeah, this is something we've discussed before. I know that it was a subject of a public hearing, but this has been in the works for quite some time, attempting to bring our fines up to a level that's commensurate with our surrounding communities. That was the only impact that we anticipated having any changes with these ordinance from. So I ask your approval to accept the reconstructed fees. It has undergone review by our town attorney.
And Mr. Burt?
Just wanted to mention, we did make those changes to extend the timelines and to include that you can mail in the payment.
Was that your question, Councilor Parker?
That's why I wanted to move to approve.
Okay. You can do that right now, sir. Would you like to move that?
I move that the ordinance to amend sections 1-7, 7-31, 10-101, 10-140, 10-184, 11-56, and 11-81 of the Code of Ordinances be approved.
Second.
Moved by Perry, seconded by Heed. Any discussion? We've discussed this quite at length in other meetings, so unless there's anything further, we will vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, moved unanimously. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we are down to, we have 2 more things to do. Okay. 2017-0293, adoption of rules for the 31st Town Council. Mr. Heed, Councilor Heed.
So I just make a motion to approve the rules?
Yep.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the rules for the 31st Town Council.
Second.
Moved by Heed, seconded by Parker, and I trust everyone's had a chance to read them.
I want to thank town staff, Nikki Brezhman, I cannot say her last name, Nikki B. Especially, you were, wonderful. We went line by line and challenged everything that's in these rules. Betsy McAllister also was instrumental, as was John Burt. So I want to thank everybody who participated in this exhaustive study of rules.
Okay, Nikki.
If there is no discussion, we will vote on approval of 2017-0293, adoption of the rules. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, so moved unanimously. To the back. 2018-0067, appointment of other attorneys as recommended by the town attorney. This is the very back of your informational packet that you got. So this is Councilor Oakley.
If I could find it,
There
I'm happy to
are-
do it.
There are 3 alternatives. Appoint other attorneys as
Want me to do
recommended.
it?
Yep.
Okay. Appoint other attorneys as recommended by the town attorney, Elaine Dugan. Consider different law firms and attorneys to provide specialized services. Do nothing.
Would you like to move one of those? Move an option?
Okay.
It's your pleasure. Appoint other attorneys as recommended by Town Attorney Eileen Dugan is, I think, what we were going for, correct?
Right.
Looks
And the
that
Board of
way.
Ed, according to Dr. Grenier, Board of Ed would like to keep their same attorneys, and we're very happy with Judith Blank as the bond counsel. Yeah.
Okay. Move number 1, appoint other attorneys as recommended by Town Attorney Ellen Dugan.
Second.
Moved by Overy, seconded by Schmidt. Is there any discussion or questions?
I think it's Eileen Duggan.
Eileen Duggan, yes.
Oh, Eileen, okay. I'll have to get a nickname for her.
All right, seeing no further discussion, we will vote on 2018-0067, appointment of town attorney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, so moved unanimously. We have one thing left, I believe, and that is town manager evaluation. And would you like to read this, please?
Make a motion for executive session. I hereby move that the members of the Town Council Committee of the Whole and Town Manager John Burke go into executive session pursuant to General Statute Section 1-200(6)A concerning the appointment, employment, performance, evaluation, health, or dismissal of a public officer and employee in regards to the town manager.
Moved by Heat, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded, I don't know who got that. Parker, seconded by Parker, that we go into executive, we don't need to, do we need to suspend the rules? No, we don't. So we're just voting now to go into executive session. So all those in favor of going into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstaining, that was unanimous.
I
So
don't think we have to move this.
we are in executive session.